Does this sound familiar? You get a text, and your gut twists. Not with excitement, but with this heavy sense of obligation. You've spent years, maybe your whole life, being the reliable one. The man who always answers the call, who replies to texts almost before they're delivered, who will reshuffle his entire day for a last-minute, "I need you." You were taught this was a good thing. Society tells you that a real man shows up, that he proves his worth through his unwavering support, his willingness to listen, to provide, to wait. You thought being constantly available made you a hero. You believed that your consistency would eventually be seen, valued, and finally rewarded with the respect and desire you crave. But I have a question for you, and I want you to be brutally honest with yourself. Has it worked? Has your 24/7 availability ever earned you her deep, soul-shaking respect? Or has it just made you convenient? What if I told you that your greatest strength, your availability, is actually your cage? What if the reason she takes you for granted is because you've given her no other choice? You've made your presence as predictable as the sunrise. And while the sunrise is beautiful, nobody worries about it not showing up tomorrow. It's just there. You have become human background noise in the life of the person you want to be the main event for. The man who drops everything in the desperate hope that this time she'll finally see the depth of his devotion. But she doesn't see depth. She sees accessibility. She doesn't see devotion. She sees a utility. And that fundamental misunderstanding is the source of the quiet frustration that's been eating you alive. You see, we've been fed a lie that love is something you earn through perfect attendance and flawless service. That to be chosen, you must first erase yourself. The great psychologist Carl Jung had a powerful concept for this: the persona. Think of it as the mask we wear to be accepted by the world. For many of us, that mask is the nice guy, the good man, the agreeable, endlessly patient, servant-hearted hero. It's the role we play because we believe it's what women want, what society rewards. But Jung gave a stark warning. Danger arises when we over-identify with that persona, when the mask fuses to our skin and we forget who we are underneath. Because for every time you said yes when you wanted to say no, for every time you silenced your own needs to cater to hers, for every time you rearranged your life to fit into a small corner of hers, you weren't being a good man. You were abandoning yourself. And let me tell you a secret that no one ever will. Nobody is attracted to a man who has abandoned himself. She may love the benefits that come with you. She may enjoy the comfort, the validation, the emotional support system you provide for free. But she does not desire you. She desires your function. There's a universe of difference between being wanted for what you do and being craved for who you are. And failing to see that difference will lead you down a road of bitterness and resentment. Here's the truth. Masculine energy is not built to be on standby. It's a creative, driving, forward-moving force. It thrives on mission, on purpose, on building an empire, whether that empire is a business, a skill, or a legacy. It was never meant to simply orbit someone else's world, waiting for permission to shine. Your life is not a customer service hotline. Your attention, your time, your very essence, these are your most valuable resources. And right now, you're giving them away for free. You've become a public utility, and you're wondering why no one values you like a treasure. But what happens when the utility gets shut off? What happens when you stop being so damn available? Everything changes. And I don't just mean in how she sees you. I mean in how the entire universe responds to you. Your reality is a mirror reflecting the standards you set for yourself. When you signal that your time is cheap, the world will devalue it. When you signal that your boundaries are weak, the world will trample them. Your constant availability is an energetic signal that you are not on your own mission, that you are waiting for someone else to give you one. When you withdraw that signal, when you reclaim your energy, the power dynamic shifts so profoundly, it can feel like a tectonic plate moving beneath your feet. Your silence suddenly becomes louder than your words ever were. Your absence becomes a presence in itself. You stop being background noise and start becoming a mystery. And in that mystery, there is power. Stepping back doesn't mean you're defeated. It means you've finally remembered what you're worth. This journey begins with a period of intense discomfort. You've been programmed for years to be the pleaser, and breaking that programming will feel like a betrayal. You'll feel guilt. You'll feel fear. You'll hear a voice in your head screaming that you're being selfish, that you're pushing her away. But that's not your voice. That's the voice of the persona, the mask, terrified of being removed. So, the question you need to ask yourself is not, will she leave me if I'm not available? The real question is, why have I been willing to devalue myself for so long, just to keep someone who only values my convenience? When you stop begging to be seen, you finally give yourself a chance to see yourself. And that is where the real work and the real transformation begins. When a man truly withdraws his availability, the first thing that happens is a profound and deafening silence. The air in his life grows still. And in this stillness, those who took his presence for granted begin to feel a strange, unsettling shift. But let's be very clear about what's happening here. When they start to notice your absence, it's rarely because they suddenly miss you, the individual. They miss the access. They miss the convenience. They miss the comforting, ego-stroking certainty that you would always be there to answer, to fix, to listen, to care, even when they offered nothing in return. You were their emotional bedrock, their unpaid therapist, their backup plan. You were the silent, walking proof that they were desirable, important, and worthy of attention, precisely because you gave yours so freely. And now, you're not. That's when the predictable pattern begins to unravel. The texts start to come in more frequently. Hey, haven't heard from you. Is everything okay? You seem distant lately. On the surface, it looks like concern. It feels like concern. And the old you, the persona you're trying to shed, will scream at you to reassure her, to explain yourself, to restore the comfortable equilibrium. But you must understand, this is not an invitation to connect. It's a probe. It's a test to see if the system is still online. She is sensing the shift in the power dynamic she relied on, and that loss of control creates discomfort. But her discomfort is her work to do, not yours. Your work is something else entirely. Your work is to sit in the fire of your own guilt. It's to feel that old, familiar urge to people-please rising up like a tidal wave, and to stand your ground until it passes. It's to accept the excruciating discomfort of being misunderstood, knowing that it is the non-negotiable price for reclaiming your own soul. Because when you stop being available to everyone else, you're not just rejecting them. You are finally, for the first time, turning towards yourself. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming a whole, integrated individual separate from the expectations of the collective. And that journey is impossible if your energy is fragmented across a dozen half-dead conversations, a handful of draining situationships, and a constant stream of just checking in texts that you never wanted to receive in the first place. Men, you have to realize that your availability has been systematically weaponized against you. You've been conditioned to believe that your love must be proven through your own exhaustion. That being a good man is synonymous with limitless self-sacrifice. That her emotional state is your report card, even if you are failing in every aspect of your own life. But true, healthy masculinity is not martyrdom. Your worth is not measured by how much of yourself you can give away until nothing is left. The man who is always available inevitably becomes boring. He is predictable, safe, and ultimately harmless. He poses no challenge. But the man who steps back, the man who reclaims his time, who unapologetically protects his energy, who chooses his own mission again and again and again, that man becomes magnetic. Not because he's playing games, but because he has stopped being played. There is a gravitational pull to a man who no longer looks outside of himself for validation. His newfound silence unnerves the insecure. His calm self-possession is a direct threat to those who thrive on chaos. There is a quiet power in him that says, "I will not trade my peace for your approval." And yes, some people will leave your life. They will call you selfish, arrogant, or cold. But I want you to look closely at who these people are. They are never the ones who genuinely cared for your well-being. They are the ones who benefited from your imbalance. They are the ones who were feeding on your endless supply of energy like a hidden parasite, cloaked in the language of intimacy but rooted in the mechanics of control. The moment you cut off their supply, the truth of the relationship is exposed. She didn't want you. She wanted your attention. She didn't love you. She loved your devotion. Now she won't tell you she's testing you, but she is. Every passive-aggressive sigh, every delayed reply to your eventual message, every sudden crisis that only you can solve. It's not random. It's calibration. She's probing your new walls, searching for a crack in your resolve. She's trying to figure out how quickly you'll revert back to the old you, the man who would absorb every outburst and fix what he didn't break. Because for years, every time you let a disrespectful comment slide, every time you accepted a double standard, every time you gave more when you were receiving less, you were teaching her one simple lesson. My boundaries don't matter. He will always be available, even when I am not. As Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. You thought her inconsistency was just her personality. You thought the constant anxiety was just how relationships are. You mistook your emotional exhaustion for love. But it wasn't fate, brother. It was a shared unconscious program, and it was running your entire life. By withdrawing, by refusing to answer the call of manufactured drama, you are making that program conscious. The dynamic can never go back to the way it was. She senses it immediately. The leash you didn't even know was, there is suddenly gone. At first, she might act confused. Then she might get angry. Then she might become incredibly seductive, trying to lure you back with the very validation you used to crave. She needs to know she still has control, not over you, the man, but over the role you used to play. But you are no longer the validator. You are no longer the emotional sponge. Now you are a mirror, and a mirror does not flatter. It only reveals the truth. It shows her the reflection she has been avoiding, her own insecurities, her own patterns, her own reliance on your self-abandonment to feel secure. And let me tell you, not everyone can survive being truly seen. Some will shatter. They will flee because they cannot tolerate a man they do not control. But you must hold your line, because the moment you soften, the moment you bend just to feel comfortable again, the new man you are becoming, the conscious, centered, powerful man, collapses back into the dust, and he is just beginning to learn how to stand. Let's talk about the real reason most men find it almost impossible to pull away, even when they know a dynamic is draining them down to the bone. It isn't just a fear of being alone. It runs much deeper than that. It's the terrifying, primal fear of no longer being needed. For your entire life, you've been conditioned to believe that your value is directly tied to your usefulness. If she doesn't need you to fix her car, to listen to her problems, to be her emotional rock, then why would she keep you around? You've come to see love as a transaction, and your part of the deal is to perform, to provide, to perpetually show up. And so you stay available not out of genuine love, but out of a deep-seated fear of becoming obsolete. That fear is the wound of the uninitiated man. Carl Jung would identify this as a manifestation of the mother complex. This is the invisible psychic architecture built in your childhood, where you learned that your sense of safety and identity was tied to the emotional state of a primary feminine figure. You learned the script early on. If she's happy, I'm okay. If she's upset, it's my job to fix it. Decades later, you carry that same unconscious script into your romantic relationships. It's why her silence sends you into a panic. It's why you feel a compulsive urge to text back even when you promised yourself you wouldn't. Deep down, a part of you still believes that her emotions are your responsibility. But that belief, that unconscious programming, is the silent killer of your masculine energy. Every time you make yourself available out of guilt, every time you jump to solve a problem out of fear, every time you perform for scraps of affection, you are tightening the very chains she doesn't even know she's holding. You shrink. You become less potent. You become a man she respects less with each passing day. And here we arrive at the great paradox of presence. The more you are physically and digitally available, the less she feels your presence. Because true, masculine presence is not about proximity. It's about power. It's the grounded, centered energy of a man who is rooted in his own reality, who is not waiting for permission to exist. It's the quiet confidence of a man who doesn't need to constantly explain or defend himself. It is the look in your eyes when you no longer need to be chosen, because you have finally, definitively chosen yourself. When you stop being available out of fear, when you stop volunteering your own peace to avoid her emotional storms, that is when your true presence begins to return. The change is holistic. You start sleeping better because your mind is no longer running 1,000 scenarios of how to please her. You walk with a different weight, a groundedness that people can feel. You might find you attract fewer women, but the ones who do enter your orbit are of a profoundly different caliber. And most importantly, you stop being used. Because the brutal truth is that the man who does not guard the gates to his own soul becomes a public resource, a placeholder, a free utility. And nothing dies faster in the heart of a woman than attraction for a man who has made himself optional. There's a strange loneliness that comes with this freedom, but it's not the loneliness of neglect. It's the loneliness of elevation. You look around, and the crowd of casual connections has thinned. The invitations to dramas you never wanted to star in have stopped. But what remains is real. You are no longer the man who bends himself into a pretzel to be liked. You are no longer the emotional janitor for others. You have stopped being available, and in doing so, you have stepped into something sacred, Sovereignty. A sovereign man doesn't need to be loud. He doesn't beg for attention. He doesn't announce his worth. He simply is. His energy is no longer scattered across 100 anxieties. It's consolidated within him. And from this place of wholeness, you start to wield silence in a way you never could before. Your silence isn't passive. It's a choice. It's a boundary. And in a world that is addicted to noise and instant gratification, a man who is comfortable in his own silence is a rare and powerful force. Your absence makes people reflect. Your stillness forces them to confront their own chaos. And then, eventually, the right woman finds you. She doesn't find you because you chased her, performed for her, or won her over with grand gestures of availability. She finds you because your quiet strength created a gravitational field she couldn't ignore. Your self-respect signals to her that you are a man worth respecting. She isn't looking for a project or a servant. She is looking for a king to build an empire with. Your boundaries don't threaten her. They make her feel safe. Your mission doesn't intimidate her. It inspires her to rise to your level. But even if she never shows up, you will be more than okay. Because the goal was never to get the girl. The goal was to get yourself back. You are no longer trying to earn a spot in someone else's life. You are building a life so solid and fulfilling that your own presence is the prize. So, to every man listening to this who has felt drained, overlooked, or taken for granted, let this be your awakening. You do not exist to be an emotional utility for others. You do not exist to soothe insecurities you didn't create. You do not exist to be perpetually available just to avoid the discomfort of being alone. You exist to become whole, unshakable, sovereign, free. Say it to yourself in the quiet moments. I choose my peace over their approval. And never forget this. When you stop being available to the world, everything changes. Because that is the moment you finally become available to yourself. If this message resonated with your soul, brother, like, share, and subscribe. Support the channel through the link in the description so we can keep building a community of men dedicated to this path. Now go out there and live with intention, walk with weight, and never again give your power away just to be seen.